How's it going, Sugar Tits? And in today's video, I'm going to give you 10 things that you might be doing that's stopping you getting stronger. We all want to get stronger no matter what you're training for, and whether you're training to get to a new 1 rep max or just training to get your lifts up and build more muscle. This is 10 things that you might be doing that's derailing you, and you might realise that you're doing some of these things, and you might not realise that you're doing some of these things and that they are actually pretty significant. So I'm going to tell you what they are, and hopefully if some of them resonate with you, you know this is what you should be doing to fix it so you can keep those gains coming. As always, make sure that you subscribe to the most strong and handsome channel on YouTube. Costs you nothing, and you're going to get class videos every week. Check out social media and all that stuff below as well, and let's actually get on with it. So these are going to be in no particular order in terms of the most common or most important. It's just going to be a general list, and I'm going to start off with you're chopping and changing your exercises far too often. For you to get strong at an exercise, you can't just do it for like 2, 3, 4 weeks and then expect to be good at it. You need to keep exercises that you're focusing on in your program for a decent amount of time, and that goes for months, maybe even year round, literally. And that's what's actually going to get you proficient at the exercises, get the particular muscles stronger, and obviously be able to make as much progress as you can on them. If you're taking exercise out of your program every couple of months, or you're like changing your workouts every single time, then that's just going to lead you to a path of nowhere, and you're never actually going to be able to train that exercise long enough to then eventually make the adaptations where you get stronger. Another thing that could be hindering your strength is that you're jumping up the weights wrong, and this can happen at both ends of the spectrum. You could be taking too small jumps within session, where let's just say you're working up to a top set on your 4th set, let's just say, and you're trying to get to 100 kilos. You might do something like you do like 90, 95, 97 and a half and 100, and basically that's just going to be too fatiguing. And obviously you don't want to take like big massive jumps, but you should be able to spread them out a little bit more so that you're warm enough to get to your top set and perform it at its best without doing too much where it takes the edge off you. But on the other hand, you can take 2 big jumps, and you can do this both within individual sessions and then also week to week. So let's just say you're working up to that same 100 kilos. If you do something like 60, 70, 80 and you're doing those 10 kilo jumps, and then take a big massive 20 kilo jump that's literally like 25%, then that's going to be really hard for your body to adapt and be able to handle that big massive weight. So make sure that when you are progressing up in your session that you do stagger your jumps without making anything too big. Your jump should get smaller rather than bigger each time. And as I said, this can also happen week to week as well, and let's just say you get that 100 kilos, the next again week your jump should be 102 and a half, maybe at 105, but you try and go like all the way up to 110, and as a result you either bomb out or drop far too many reps. And again, you need to build yourself up slowly when you're jumping up. The next one's going to be a little bit of a controversial one, but I do believe that most people who use RPE should not be using RPE, and I can extend this out into just being overly hyper scientific and analytical and just like overcomplicating a process that shouldn't be that complicated. But I'm going to talk about specifically RPE here. Most people who I see use RPE just shouldn't be using RPE, and it's really hard to actually get accurate when you are a relatively kind of beginner or intermediate level lifter. And the key word in RP, as I always say, is that P, the perceived, and your perceived level of exertion isn't always going to match the reality, and it does take a good number of years to actually get practice and get a good enough gauge of what your actual RPE is. And I personally think most people using RPE just holds them back, and you might be sitting there saying, oh, all the top level powerlifters and all these guys and my favourite Instagram influencers who are really strong, they all talk about their RPE, so they use it and it clearly works. But as I said, they're a hell of a lot more experienced than you and at a higher level than you, and they've also all got coaches who can help guide them through it and actually assess their RPE accurately. So don't use RPE and RPG your progress into the fucking ground. And out with those of you that use RPE, a lot of you won't be getting stronger because you're just quite simply not training hard enough. And I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. Talk about it all the time. I don't need to go on about it again. The harder you train, the more gains you're going to make. However, there is training hard and there is training properly, and I think what stifles a lot of people when they are... There's a police coming outside the door. I hope they're not coming for me. I think I've avoided them this time. But yeah, you do need to make sure that you are training hard, but also training properly. And what I mean by this is that you're not hindering yourself by going and like just chasing numbers. I'll see it all the time when people are trying to get stronger, where they get to a point and they just basically, I suppose, overshoot their progress a little bit too much too soon, and they just keep adding weight to the bar and weight that they shouldn't be adding, or trying reps that they shouldn't be doing. And If you want to put a label on it, you can call it ego lifting, but what ends up happening is they end up moving with poor form, they end up losing range of motion and actually just like don't actually get stronger, they just move through a less range, which then gives the illusion that you're actually doing more, but you're actually not, like you've not actually made yourself stronger through the full range. And yeah, you do get that short-term hit off, like, oh, all these numbers are going up, great, woohoo, but please believe me, in the long term, this is going to stifle you, and you do need to make sure that you are always training and not chasing numbers. The numbers will come with the proper effort and focus. Do push yourself hard, but just don't go like chasing numbers. And if you're kind of doing a weight or a rep or a set or whatever and you think, I'm not sure that was quite up to standard, I'm not sure if I should go up, just don't go up. Take that again, get it properly, and then go up, and don't just like chase that kilo amount on the bar just for the sake of it. Fucking hell, police van now, they're really out for me today. Grouping the next two together, and they are effectively the same thing, but what is going to stop you getting stronger is if you are overtraining, stroke doing too much volume. Now pretty much all of you watching this aren't trying to be bodybuilders, so just remember you aren't actually trying to be copy bodybuilders, and obviously they're all about volume and high reps and high sets and all that time under tension stuff. That's not what you're trying to achieve. Your outcome's totally different. You're wanting to obviously still build muscle. When you do too much volume, and especially training with heavy loads, it is just going to be massively fatiguing and it is going to be harder to recover from. And if you're doing those heavy sets, heavy reps, big exercises, and then doing tons of volume after, it's just going to be hard for your body to recover and then adapt and get stronger from. So don't get caught up in doing massive amounts of training. When you are trying to get stronger, primarily your volume should be like medium to low. Like, we don't want to try and do as much as we can. There's almost an argument for saying you want to try and do the least amount you can. And if you maybe are worried about doing too low volume and missing out on muscle growth, then quite simply, you just plan out blocks of your training maybe once a year, a couple times a year, where you do focus on high reps and high volume, and that's obviously going to take care of your hypertrophy needs as well as getting stronger through the other periods of your training. And for anybody watching this who is a bit more bodybuilding inclined and muscle building focused, this still applies to you, and it may get to a point where if your lifts are plateauing, could just be a case where you are just doing a little bit too much, and if you do want to try and get some of your core numbers up and some of your main exercises, then it may be a case where you just have to drop a little bit of volume to push on that way. And obviously I know that main thing for you is time under tension and getting in that volume, but there isn't going to be any harm sometimes in just lowering a little bit to push on. Speaking of things that you can do too much of, if you are doing too much machine or isolation work, that's probably going to hinder your strength as well. We want compound lifts. That's what we want to focus on. We want big heavy weights working through multiple joints, and that should be the focus of your training when you're trying to get stronger. And there isn't a problem with doing machine work and isolation stuff as like your assistance exercises, but if you are kind of seeing the bulk of your training being on machines and doing stuff like flies and all that type of thing, then that's not really going to do you much good for getting stronger. And we want the heaviest weights possible, and you're not going to get that with isolation work. When you are doing these, chuck a couple of them in at the end of your session, and that's all good. You don't need to go and again try and copy the bodybuilding approach where you're doing like umpteen different exercises a day. Now you may have noticed all these mistakes have been inside of the gym. We're now going to take it outside of the gym, and something that is going to stop your progress and your strength is if you're just basically neglecting everything you do outside of the gym. And that goes for your nutrition and under eating and eating crap food, eating irregularly, not fueling yourself properly for your sessions. It goes for your lack of sleep and just not recovering properly, and obviously all mediums of recovery I suppose can be included in that as well, and just general preparing for your sessions, having stuff planned out and being organised and fitting sessions in. And again, it's not just about going in the gym and trying to chuck weight on the bar and seeing what you can do. It's got to be like a proper process where, you know, you're preparing properly to go in the gym and actually smash it. And imagine like any sportsman in the world, like they don't just like turn up on game day and just like hope for the best. Like they've got everything like planned out. They live like athletes, and obviously maybe don't need to take it that extreme, but try and just get that in your mind that, you know, it's not going to happen for you if you're half-arsing stuff out of the gym. You're not going to come in the gym and just like be a world beater. And you couldn't have a video without me bringing this up, and something that I don't care what anybody says is absolutely 100% going to kill your strength is excessive bulking. And yeah, I have that myth that's been about forever that more mass equals more weight, or mass moves mass, or whatever. And you know what? Good mass will move mass, but shite mass is just going to make you just a bag of shite and feeling terrible and not actually improving any weights you're lifting. And I've heard it forever that, oh, I'm trying to get stronger and I'm trying to eat and eat and eat and put kilos on, and what ends up happening is you just put on shite that doesn't actually help you. It's non-functional at all, and there's an argument to make it actually makes you weaker, because you've put on like 5-10 kilos of body weight and your lift goes up by like 2.5 kilos, and if you actually want to measure how pound for pound strong you are, you've actually like gotten weaker. Believe me, from someone who's been there before, when you're just constantly like ramming food in your face and your body's constantly trying to process it, you will feel shit and lethargic and actually like tired going into sessions before you've even lifted the weight. You'll feel even more tired when you start training because you're a fat bag of shite, and it's just no good for anything. So please don't just resort to, oh, I'm trying to get stronger, I'm just going to eat more. Like, it's got to be a little bit calculated, it's got to be conservative, and you don't need like an extra 500, 700, 1,000 calories a day to start fueling your sessions more to make you stronger. Genuinely start off with like a low amount, as low as like 150 a day, as much as like 250 a day, maybe 300 a day. That is all you need, and please believe me, that'll make a massive difference to your performance, and a lot more than fucking 500 plus. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about is something that's pretty specific in regards to a 1 rep max jobby fart head fuck. Now, the last thing is quite a specific one, and that's for a 1 rep max, and obviously a lot of us use 1 rep maxes to measure our max strength, and this is a mistake that you can make that will cost you strength on your actual 1 rep max itself. And that is just something that I personally don't like doing, and I try to avoid doing as much as I can, and that's when you just like throw in random 1 rep max tests out the blue. If you're just kind of like going about your training and you're maybe training at like sets of 5 and like you're kind of not too near your top strength, but you're maybe strong enough, and then you just be like, oh, I'm just going to see what I can do today and chuck a 1 rep max on. It's just like, it's not really the good preparation, is it? Like, your body's not really been working with weights near enough your 1 rep max. It's feeling pretty acclimatized, for lack of a better word, and that's probably the worst word that came to my head, but you get the gist. And if you're just like randomly throwing it in with no thought, you're never going to be able to perform your best on that day. So what you should be doing, and it's what I do as often as possible for myself and my clients, is we actually build up to 1 rep max properly, and that involves weeks of tapering our training down, of training progressively lower reps, getting a few triples and doubles under our belt, and that's going to prepare you for that next again jump to a 1 rep max, rather than having to like go from like medium reps to like the lowest reps you possibly can. And sometimes out of practicalities it can't really be helped, and sometimes there's not any harm in doing it, but if that's just generally how you just perform your 1 rep max, or let's just say you plan out your year or your months or whatever, and you've put your 1 rep max in on a certain date, and then things don't go to plan but you still do it anyway, like, you're still not really getting a true gauge at that point, I don't believe. So that's why you should always phase your training so that you have a good block of lifting pretty heavy, close to your max, and then have that day where you do just go all out and hopefully smash your new PB. Your one-stop shop to having all these problems fixed is the Strong in 6 program, which is your beginning of the year Kickstarter to get all new PBs and lose some Christmas chub if you've still got it, or you just want to lose non-Christmas chub if you need to. And that's my new group coaching program. We've got a few weeks to go till it all kicks off, so get signed up now. Priority list is open. Head to the link in the description. It takes you 2 seconds to fill that out, and then you're going to get more information from me there. And just to be crystal clear, when you're on the priority list, you're not committed to anything at that point. It's just you getting more information, and then when sign-ups open on the 31st of January, at that point, if you know that the program's for you and you know that you're going to get the progress that you've been dying on and just never actually made, then that's when you sign up at that point, and you've got till the 7th of February to sign up. Make sure you get on that. And the final mistake you can make that's not making you as strong is if you're not subscribed to me, so make sure that you do that before you go off the video. Time for me to go and be strong and do some deadlifts, and I will catch you soon.